Something is quietly disappearing from your life. Not dramatically, not all at once, but piece by piece, the things that used to occupy your hours, the rituals, the distractions, the patterns you built your days around, are losing their pull. And in the space where they used to live, there is something unfamiliar, something that feels uncomfortably like emptiness but isn't quite that. You haven't made a decision to change. You haven't committed to a new version of yourself. But your old habits are falling away anyway, almost on their own, like leaves that no longer need to be pulled from a branch. And you don't entirely understand why. What's happening to you is not a loss of motivation. It's not burnout, it's not depression, though it can look like all three from the outside. What's happening has been documented across centuries of psychological and spiritual inquiry, and Carl Jung spent decades studying exactly this phenomenon, the moment when the psyche outgrows the coping mechanisms it once needed to survive and quietly, firmly refuses to go back. This is one of the most misunderstood signals of genuine inner transformation, and if you're experiencing it right now, you need to understand what it actually means. Before we talk about why you're losing them, you have to understand what they were actually doing. Every habit you built, the late-night scrolling, the compulsive overworking, the drinks at the end of the day, the constant noise you surrounded yourself with, the relationships you stayed in too long, the food you reached for when something felt wrong, every single one of them had a function. They weren't weaknesses, they were architecture. They were the structures your psyche built to manage something it didn't yet have the tools to face directly. Jung called these psychic defense mechanisms, unconscious strategies the self develops to protect the ego from overwhelming material. Grief it couldn't hold, fear it couldn't name, a self-image that depended on not looking too closely at certain things. Your habits were never about the habits. They were about what the habits were keeping at a distance. And for a long time, that distance was necessary. This is the part that no one explains clearly. When you start losing interest in your old habits, it isn't because you've become stronger through willpower or discipline. It's because the thing those habits were protecting you from has been, quietly, without ceremony, integrated. Not resolved, not erased, integrated. The grief you were scrolling past has been felt. The fear you were overworking through has been acknowledged. The emptiness you were filling with noise has been sat with long enough that it no longer feels unbearable. Something has shifted at a level beneath conscious decision-making, and the defense no longer fits the wound it was built to cover. Jung documented this in patient after patient. The moment the psyche completes a genuine integration, the behaviors attached to the avoidance begin to dissolve spontaneously. Not because the person tried to stop them, because they became structurally unnecessary. The scaffold comes down when the building no longer needs it. This is what's happening to you. Not willpower, not discipline, completion. And this is where most people misread the signal entirely. When the old habits fall away, they leave behind a space that hasn't yet been filled with anything. And that space can feel alarming. It can feel like apathy, like purposelessness, like something has been taken from you rather than outgrown. You reach for the thing that used to comfort you and feel nothing. You go through the motions of a routine that used to feel automatic, and it feels hollow, performative, foreign. This is not depression. This is the pause between one chapter and the next. It is the inhale before a new breath. Jung called it the dark night of individuation, not the darkness of destruction, but the darkness of gestation. Something is being formed in the absence, something that needs the quiet to take shape. The mistake is to fill it immediately, to replace the old habit with another habit before understanding what the space is actually asking for. Most people do this because emptiness is uncomfortable, and the instinct is to reach for something, anything, that restores the familiar sense of being occupied. But the space is not a problem to be solved. It's an invitation. When Jung's patients arrived at this threshold, habits dissolving, old pleasures flat, routines that used to feel automatic now feeling hollow, He didn't interpret it as crisis. He interpreted it as the psyche making room. Room for what exactly? For the parts of yourself that your habits were never letting speak. The creative impulse buried under compulsive productivity. The need for genuine stillness beneath the constant noise. The desire for real connection, hiding beneath the shallow social rituals you'd been performing on autopilot. The questions you'd been too busy to let rise to the surface. Your psyche is not empty. It is reorganizing. It is redirecting the energy that used to flow automatically into the old grooves, now that those grooves have served their purpose, towards something that more accurately reflects who you are becoming. This is not comfortable. Reorganization never is. But it is purposeful. Not everything falls away. And what remains after this period of dissolution is extraordinarily revealing. The habits that survive the awakening are the ones that were never defense mechanisms to begin with. The ones you return to not because they numb you or distract you or fill a void, but because they genuinely sustain you. The morning walk that clears something in your mind. The creative practice that feels like breathing. The conversation with the one person who sees you without needing you to perform. The silence you've learned to inhabit without fear. These habits don't feel compulsive. They don't have the anxious edge of something you reach for to manage a feeling. They feel chosen, voluntary, like something you return to because it genuinely serves your aliveness rather than protecting you from it. Jung called this the difference between a habit of the ego and a practice of the self. One is built from fear, the other from wholeness. And until you've sat in the uncomfortable space between losing the first and discovering the second, you cannot tell the difference between them. Now you can. The loss of interest in your old habits is not a malfunction. It is not a sign that something needs to be fixed, medicated, or urgently replaced. It is one of the clearest signals the psyche can send that something fundamental is changing at your core. You are not the same person who built those habits. You built them in a different season, from a different wound, with a different understanding of what you needed to survive. That person did what they had to do. Those habits served you faithfully for exactly as long as they needed to. But you have outgrown them, not because you decided to, because something in you and something deeper and older than your decisions recognized that you no longer need what they were offering. This is not emptiness, this is space. Space for the life that more accurately fits the person you are becoming. Space for the energy that has been locked inside compulsion and avoidance to finally flow towards something that actually matters to you. Space, perhaps for the first time, to feel what you actually feel without immediately reaching for something to make it stop. Jung spent his life studying people who arrived at exactly this threshold and didn't turn back, who sat in the discomfort of dissolution long enough to discover what was waiting on the other side of it. What he found consistently was that the people who let their old habits fall without rushing to replace them, who trusted the emptiness, who listened to the silence, who allowed the reorganization to complete, emerged from it as people who finally felt at home in their own lives. Not because everything was perfect, but because they were at last living from the inside out. You are not losing yourself. You are losing what was never truly you to begin with. And that is not something to mourn. That is something to follow more quietly, carefully, and without looking back.